Assalamu alaikum everyone. I hope you're doing well. Do you know that in Pakistan every year around 13,000 people commit suicide according to World Health Organization? And for every successful suicide attempt there are 20 non-successful ones. So on average 130,000 to 270,000 people commit suicide every year in Pakistan. These are big numbers. And a big chunk out of this is from teenagers. But we don't have much accurate data in Pakistan. It's haram to commit suicide in Islam, and in Pakistani law, it is a criminal offense, and that could lead you up to 10,000 rupees in fine and imprisonment. So people who unsuccessfully commit suicide don't report it. So we don't have actual numbers, but these are some independent researches done by World Health Organization. Recently, on my other channels, I did a show on teenage suicide related to PUBG. You can see the video in the link above, and in that we found out that actually the game itself is not the cause of committing suicide, but there are certain underlying causes to it. So today's topic is about teenage anxiety, and I have asked for a friend of mine from Dubai. Her name is Kritika, and she is a counselor with a lot of years of experience helping kids and teenagers in different schools in Dubai of different nationalities and coping with their anxiety and depression. She has a lot of grip on this subject. So I've invited her on the show to talk about teen anxiety. So let's start. Hi Kritika, thank you for joining me. Today we will talk about a very interesting topic which is neglected in Pakistan, India, and the Middle East region generally, and that is teen anxiety. There are a lot of suicides happening in the world, and especially in third world countries, there's no proper data on it, but research suggest that the numbers are high, and teenage anxiety leading to suicide is a real and present threat to the mental health of teenagers. Starting off, I would like to know what is teen anxiety? How would you define it?
Teen anxiety, by the word, doesn't mean anything different from anxiety, which even adults experience. It's the symptoms that differ between adolescents and adults. Anxiety is something that happens to everybody. So it's a very normal phenomena. However, anxiety would be something towards something anticipated as a threat or anticipated as something that could cause some harm to us. Anything that you're working towards or probably you're missing out on, and this is something that everybody experiences, some kind of anxious levels or anxiety levels. However, when anxiety starts hampering your daily life, when it starts coming in between your day-to-day living, you're not being able to do things that you were normally being able to do, that's when anxiety becomes a disorder. And this anxiety disorder could be of many types. So you could have a phobia, that is an irrational fear towards something. This could come out of a previous past negative experience, or it could be something that you cannot actually pinpoint at, but there must have been something in your life or some connection that has caused you towards phobia. For example, some young kids who've had a very bad experience with dogs or things like that, or any furry animal, may develop a phobia towards bearded men or anywhere where there's a lot of facial hair. So, and the person would not be able to identify why they are suffering from this phobia. Anxiety could be of a very generalized order as well. We call it generalized anxiety disorder, which is GAD. This is basically where you have free floating anxiety. Things keep happening and you start getting anxious about the smallest of things. For example, a loud thud somewhere, or a sudden invasion by somebody, or maybe you're walking towards a place and you fear that I might lose out on my way. So it's generalized anxiety. Or it could be something which is very specific. For example, you've had a past trauma and you're not being able to forget that trauma, and like a tape in a loop, that trauma keeps playing in your head. You might be suffering from PTSD, which is post traumatic stress disorder. Very, very common symptom of a PTSD patient would be huge anxiety attacks. And which brings me to obviously the most felt anxiety disorder, which is anxiety attack. The attack happens when you feel breathlessness, or you might feel a lot of thumping of your heart. We call them palpitations. Maybe cold sweat, maybe your hands going absolutely cold. You might, if you touch your neck, you might feel as if there's a rush of blood. and while talking it might get a little difficult for you to talk or to articulate what is happening and express it to somebody else. This is anxiety attack. You could also have a panic attack, and panic attack is a more severe version of this, where there could be probably unconsciousness, blackouts, and maybe a complete breakdown of the bodily system. I would just want to, recapitulate. So anxiety is okay. Exam anxiety, for example, till the time you're standing right outside your examination hall and you're anxious about how my exam is going to be, that's fine. But the moment it becomes too difficult to manage, that's when you need therapeutic help, and you need to seek out and talk to someone and say, this is what is happening. Now, when it comes to adolescence, a lot of people kind of take their anxiety as something not very serious. For example, people think exam anxiety is not very, it's no big deal. Everybody has exam anxiety. But that child who gets inside the exam hall, sees the paper and blanks out, and everything that the child had studied is absolutely nowhere in the head. There's a complete numbness. Or the child is not being able to hold the pen properly and is even finding it difficult to write down the answers and is not being able to overcome that state. Or the child feels as if the body has become absolutely paralyzed and the child is not being able to do anything, maybe not even ask for help or a glass of water. Now that is serious. Kids who are as young as 13, 14, maybe even 15 find it very difficult to talk about these feelings to their parents or to adults, thinking this is not going to be taken seriously. Because frankly, our society does not have such kind of awareness that, something like this could be so serious also. And therefore, they could start feeling symptoms of withdrawal, where they do not talk to anybody and they kind of withdraw within themselves. They stop talking to their friends, they stop talking to people, they want to stay alone and aloof in the room because who else to talk about and what to say?
Of us have felt exam anxiety at one time or other in our lives. Especially parents in the subcontinent and our side of the world are very, you can say, they pressurize a lot when papers are there, because that is the whole focus of everything and the child's future. So we all have felt that. I did a recent show because there were some suicides in Pakistan because of PUBG. So I did a show on it. Another psychologist friend of mine, and that point was that the game itself is not the cause of the suicide. It's just a pivot point where that decision to take your
Absolutely.
life happens. So we never got around to. That's why I want to talk to you about it. Is what are the kind of symptoms? What are the reasons for teenagers move towards anxiety leading up to suicide? What do you suggest some common causes that cause anxiety among teenagers?
Teenage life in itself is very anxiety provoking. It's a phase which is very difficult to adjust into. You are not being considered a child, but you are not being considered an adult as well. And so there is a lot of pressure from everywhere. Of course, studies get very difficult, but this is also the time where the children are moving from a very innocent age, discovering new things about adult life. Peer pressure increases. Children start developing new relationships and they're exploring their sexual abilities as well. So there are multiple things that could actually cause this kind of anxiety. No matter what culture or no matter what kind of society we are living in, we cannot underestimate the human or the developmental changes that a normal teenager goes through. So I understand in India and Pakistan, our societies are not very advanced. So suppose a girl is feeling, for example, she's feeling a little bit of affinity or a soft corner for another boy, it becomes difficult for her to actually talk about this to an adult and to go up to her mother or father and say that, what, I really like that guy and I tend to have these bodily sensations that I don't know what they are and I don't know what to do with them. Is this normal or is this not normal? So what she does is she goes to her peer, and she goes to her peer group who has no idea in themselves what is happening. And so they resort to the internet. Now, the internet is filled with so many people and so much of information. And all that information overload, if not processed in the right manner, could cause a lot of anxiety in the child. But this is just one of the example. There are so many other reasons for anxiety, but the main cause being that when you cannot communicate with someone and there is nobody to understand you and there's nobody to understand that what you're going through is normal, that's when everything moves inwards. And once it moves inwards, that confusion and that lack of information, awareness, that ignorance could cause a lot of thoughts to start moving in a very haphazard manner, leading to a lot of varied emotional state, leading to then a lot of anxiety. So I can't really pinpoint and say that this could be the cause, but I think one very important factor that leads to something small moving to such a huge phenomena like taking your own life is because that person has not been able to find a support group or has not been able to find somebody who could understand.
I agree with you because in a lot of cases where this thing happens, there's a lack of basic communication and understanding between the child and the parents, and it's maybe because of society. Parents think he's just studying, just has to study, or he or she, the child, is involved in studies. There is no other problem in his life. I've seen bullying as one of the major causes that people end up,
Absolutely.
taking the ultimate decision leading up to suicide because their kids are just bullied and adults don't listen to them and don't take it that seriously. So I think the major take here is that parents should actively communicate with their kids on not on just a parental level but at a human and a friendly level, so that they can understand if the child is going through any problems, any tensions, or just needs to understand some things as the life and the body and the environment changes.
Absolutely, Japan. I think bullying is a beautiful thing that you've actually got, and bullying has moved from in-person bullying to cybercrime.
Yeah.
So a lot of bullying is happening on the internet. People don't even realize, and evolutionary wise, human beings like to stay in groups. Simple things like you're a part of like for example, you're a part of a WhatsApp group, and suddenly the admin takes you out of that WhatsApp group for some reason, or if somebody leaves, that causes a lot of problems or psychological effects to a person as well. They immediately feel rejected, and that rejection could immediately link to their evolutionary instinct of being left alone, not being part of the group, which is a survival instinct, and the person could actually feel that that person is not fit to survive. And so even the smallest of the things, such as exclusion from a group or not being included in the first place in a peer group on online community, could be bullying, apart from of course verbal bullying and physical bullying, and otherwise through text and Snapchat giving out ugly and harmful messages. Of course that is bullying, that is very evident, but apart from that, even being left out and excluded is a part of bullying.
As a parent or as a teacher, what would they look for in child to see signs of that the child is going through something stressful or something serious? Even because in some cases, even if the parents want to talk, the child is not talking to them for some reason.
First and foremost, before doing a symptom check, it is important that the parents prepare themselves to be aware enough to be able to see symptoms. Any parent who is egoistically involved in himself or herself, or is egoistically involved in a troubled relationship maritally, will not have the time, the patience, and the awareness to see their child is going through any problem. So the first thing that a parent requires to do is to be in touch with himself and to be aware in himself that I understand mental health and I am on a lookout for any negative mental health symptoms. If the parents are not aware in themselves, and in this case, meditation, if you're a religious person, then being religious. If you are an atheist, then being absolutely in sync with your own self comes really handy. Understanding that you are not a parent who's holding the finger of the child now in teens. So, that's the role change that parents need to do when their child is adolescence, that you're not holding the child's finger anymore. You're now more of a coach. And so you are on at the backside and you're slightly pushing the child. So the child is an independent entity living a life of his own, and you are guiding the child into a new, or ushering the child into a new phase. This is a huge change that parents don't go through, especially our Desi parents. They don't go through. They feel that I have always guided the child, I've held the hand of the child, and I am responsible for the child, so I'll take decisions for him. And so when the child is withdrawing in himself, they don't even realize that the child is withdrawing. The first thing that comes out to them is punishment, that you're not following instructions, you're not doing as I said, and so you're not being the right kind of child, which will further cause more difficulties with the child. Or, as you said, the symptoms to be noticed might not even surface. And the child might put up a wonderful face, a smiling face, excel in studies, and say everything's hunky dory and there's nothing going wrong, but may still be feeling anxiety. Or may even be going through depression and have random bouts of crying. So it is extremely important that the parents have a very friendly atmosphere at home. Having said that, some symptoms to notice would be change in appetite, change in usual interest in activities, change in the way the child is now approaching new and adventurous situations. For example, you're going off and meeting a particular new relative or a new person, you're taking your child along, and the child is showing some kind of hesitation, or is not talking too much, or is showing some kind of bodily changes such as sweating or things like that. These are some great pointers to start talking to your child about. What is it that you're going through? Is there something, because I see there's a change in you, is there something that I can do to help?
Very good pointers on how to look for what are the signs. In order to look for the signs, you must be involved in your child's life to an extent where you have that relationship, that
Yeah.
sort of understanding, which is very important. So, if the certain level at a certain stage, when student comes to you with anxiety, parents are not listening. So, is it only the child that needs counseling, or I think it would be the parents as well? What is the general treatment criteria for when a student comes to you? What kind of treatment you would generally do?
The first mode or the first point or the first step towards treatment is building the rapport, that friendship with the child. So the child comes and starts talking about what's troubling him or her without involving the parents. Once you understand that parents have to be involved. This is not just related to a child coming and speaking to an adult, but this is actually a support system or a family system that needs to be worked with. Then definitely family members are involved and they are included with the permission of the child. I think a lot of counselors, unfortunately, and a lot of school systems that are very conservative and traditional in nature tend to immediately reach out to the parents. This kind of breaks the trust between the child and the counselor, and other children see that there is no confidentiality that is being maintained. So the counselor is not an adult that we need to go and speak to, because immediately our parents will be involved. So the first line of treatment is between the child and the therapist. And in this case, I don't like saying child, I like saying client. So the client needs to be feeling very, very safe with the counselor, feeling that this is a place where I can come and talk about anything, and I can share that I'm feeling anxious or depressed about something, and I can even cry, and I will not be judged. Once that rapport has been formed, slowly the child is then taught that it is important that your support system becomes your family. That's one place that you can always bank upon. If suppose there is abuse in the family, or the anxiety is coming due to family relationships or marital discords, then obviously different steps are taken. But in normal cases, link between the mother and the girl in teenage life and father and the boy is tried to establish. So I generally call in then the parents once the child is okay with this. If the child would want to sit with the parent while the counseling session is happening, so be it. And otherwise, it is discussed with the client. Would you want only the parents to be involved over here, so that a little bit of training can go in the parents on the parents' side as well. Now, very crucial to note over here is till the child is 11. It was considered 12 in the olden days, but in nowadays children are moving at a supersonic speed. So now 10, 11 years of age is considered this. The child is always more connected to the opposite sex parent. So a girl will be connected to the father, my little princess relationship, and the boy would be the mama's boy. The moment teenage life starts coming in, the two The boy starts moving, starts wanting to become a lot like dad, and the girl starts noticing how her mom behaves or talks and starts becoming like her. It's an unconscious process. Children don't do it on purpose. That is also how they start rebelling, which is healthy because they're trying to identify and they're trying to create their own identity at the same time. At this point of time, parents' roles have to be trained in such a way that they start becoming a very, especially father and sons, because I believe in Desi environments, in in Pakistani families, the father tends to take the role of the breadwinner and not of a child rearer, and so boys tend to be very left behind when it comes to emotional intelligence and emotional training. When fathers get more involved in their sons' lives, that training really helps the child's mental health. So yes, the counselor then goes up to the parents.
Very good points, Jatika. I would assume proactively what can be done is schools should start parent-teacher meetings, should also train parents how to deal with these situations in advance before the child gets involved in anything serious. Would be a good thing. I'm really thankful to you for coming and sharing your experiences with us. I would definitely be inviting you again on my channel to continue discussion on these similar topics. For now, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. It's been my pleasure and it's been wonderful speaking to you, Jabran.
So this was today's show. Two key points that I've learned from today's show from talking with Kritika is that number one, parents need to be proactive in their kids' lives and keep an eye out for any changes in behavior and help them transition from childhood to adulthood. And the second point that I think schools in Pakistan should add psychologists and counselors to their panel and have kids and parents regularly be trained on mental health and wellness and how to talk about your issues so that any minor mental health problem or anxiety can be stopped before it becomes a serious problem. If you want me to talk about any other mental health or health related issue in general, do let me know in the comments and I will try my best to have an expert on that topic come and talk on the channel. I am Gibran, your host, and you're watching my channel Planet Jibs. Here I talk about lifestyle, technology, mental health, and anything related with positive and healthy lifestyle. So if you're not subscribed to my channel, I would appreciate if you like my channel, press the subscribe button and hit the bell icon so all my videos when they're uploaded are immediately shared and you are updated on what's coming on the channel. This is all for today from my side. Gibran signing out from Planet Jibs. Have a great day.